We're talking about today as we begin our theme for the month of April, which is giant gentleness. And our topic for today is your gentleness is showing. I thought I would start us out with a little humor this morning. Next Monday is tax day. And so here are some little quotes that kind of feed into that, if you will. Isn't it appropriate that the month of tax begins with April Fool's Day and ends with cries of May Day? And this is by Rob Counterhouse, a research scientist. Albert Einstein added this: tax returns are too difficult for a mathematician. It takes a philosopher. And then Will Rogers added this: the difference between death and taxes is death doesn't get worse each time Congress meets. And Jean-Baptiste Colbert, a French statesman, says this: the art of taxation consists in so plucking the goose as to obtain the largest number of feathers with the least amount of hissing. And then the final one I think is very appropriate. It's from David Camp, who is a past chairman of the Ways and Means Committee. And he says, the tax code is larger than the Bible, but without the good news. And so as we begin our April series, let's explore some aspects of gentleness. I remembered as I was preparing for this talk, I remembered the frozen vegetables and canned vegetables. I think it was mainly green peas and perhaps green beans that had the label on the can, Jolly Green Giant. I don't know if any of you remember those or not. But this Jolly Green Giant was the mascot that was used for these particular cans and vegetables. And the goal of the use of the mascot was to build brand loyalty and trust in the product. And I remember my mother buying products that had those labels, primarily the frozen vegetables, that had the Jolly Green Giant label on there. So during our gentleness series, we will explore various aspects of gentleness that invite us to remember who we are, declaring we are so much more than we give ourselves credit for. And I think if you've been following our overall theme for this year, which is Grand Rising, there's an underlying tone in there of giving ourselves credit for more than we are. Ernest Holmes was quoted in the Science of Mind magazine for July of 2001, saying this: there is something about you and me that is cosmic, universal, that stretches over time and space. Let us learn to think better of ourselves. Gentleness can be one of our most trusted travel companions, guiding us to let ourselves off the hook, to release our dislikes into loving kindness, and to allow ourselves to embrace our likes and dislikes, enfolding them also in loving kindness. Everything leads back to this idea and this concept of loving kindness. Gentleness allows us to recognize pain, sorrow, fear, and doubt as being for our highest good. And it allows us to see these things differently and to be okay with ourselves. And this is the whole purpose of our teaching, is to be okay with ourselves, remembering who we are. Gentleness is not a weakness. At its core, gentleness is what I describe as ACG. It is active, it is compassionate, and it is based in gratitude for who and where we are. It takes courage to be gentle, and we're building trust and brand loyalty to ourselves by practicing gentleness. And I share this story of a gentleness practice with you. Some of you may have heard it. A nurse took a tired and anxious serviceman to the bedside of an older man and said, "Your son is here." And she repeated these words several times before the patient opened his eyes, because he was heavily sedated due to the pain of his heart attack. He dimly saw the young uniformed Marine standing outside the oxygen tent, and he reached out his hand. The Marine wrapped his toughened fingers around the older man's limp ones, squeezing a message of love and encouragement. The nurse brought a chair so the Marine could sit by the bedside. Throughout the night, the young Marine sat in the poorly lit hospital ward, holding the older man's hand and offering him words of love and strength. Occasionally, the nurse suggested that the Marine move away and rest for a while. However, he refused. Oblivious to the nurse coming in to the ward and the hospital's noises, the clanking of the oxygen tank, the laughter of the night staff members exchanging greetings, and the cries and the moans of other patients, the nurse heard the young Marine say a few gentle words to the dying man. The dying man said nothing, only held tightly to his son all through the night. Along towards morn and towards dawn, the older man died, and the Marine released this now lifeless hand he had been holding and went to tell the nurse. While the nurse did what she had to do, the young Marine waited. And finally, the nurse returned and started to offer words of sympathy, but the Marines interrupted her and said, "Who was that man?" The nurse was startled, and she responded, "He was your father." The young Marine said, "No, he wasn't. I've never seen him before in my life." The nurse asked, "Then why did you stay him when I took you to him?" "I knew right away," said the young Marine, "there had been a mistake. I also knew he needed his son, and his son wasn't here. When I realized that he was too sick to tell whether or not I was his son, knowing how much he needed me, I stayed." For me, this story illustrates that gentleness is everything. The young Marine demonstrated a simple perspective shift from focusing on not knowing the older man to being a safe and place or demonstrating love. Isn't that a powerful story? I don't know if I would have had the courage to do that. And yet, in the moment, we never know what our capabilities are when we surrender to that indwelling presence that says, "Be here now." The Dalai Lama writes in The Wisdom of Forgiveness, "Compassion is something like a sense of care, a sense of concern for others' difficulties and pain." When we demonstrate gentleness, we are embracing one of the primary concepts of the teachings of science of mind, and that is there is only one universal energy, life, or God. It is in all and as all. Each one of us is an individualized expression of this universal energy and life. We are perfect, whole, and complete each and every moment. And within each and every moment, it is sacred and holy. When we hear everything is sacred and holy, what does that mean? Does it mean lying on the couch watching TV while eating a bag of popcorn? Is that a sacred experience? Does it mean being moody and ill-tempered with those that we care for? Does it mean failing in your business is for your highest and best? No, no, doesn't mean any of that. Sacred and holy means that there is a learning curve, that we learn from our experiences and choose differently in the future. Learning and choosing means being self-compassionate and open to more ways of doing things. We recognize other options which allow us to forgive ourselves and to move forward. Living in this material human experience, we may forget these essential truths. However, an active faith and dedication to the practices and principles of Science of Mind allows us to live the life that we were meant to live. And so I offer these gentleness practices that we can embody. Show yourself gratitude and love. Begin there. Show yourself gratitude and love. There's always something to be grateful for. Celebrate the simple things about life. Be thankful for the accomplishments rather than looking at what is left undone. Appreciate what you have. Practice being grateful for you. And speaking of accomplishments, I had an opportunity to celebrate myself recently. There's a project that I've been working on and off for 5 years. And there've been various interruptions. Started the project, and there are 2 phases to this project. Phase 1 was approved. Phase 2 was delayed because of we needed some materials from the state. COVID hit. The state cashed our checks, but didn't find the materials that we had submitted to approve. And so, we kind of went back and forth with that, not getting the timely responses. And then, life continues to happen. And finally, I just said to myself, this particular folder has always started at the top of the stack, and then I put something on top of it and something on top of it, and it winds up on the bottom. Today, I'm moving it to the top, and I am committing this entire day to getting this completed so that I can send it in. And I did. And I felt so good about it. And thank you. And I received an acknowledgement. It was something that I sent into our home office, and I received an acknowledgement that really surprised me, because I was not expecting to hear. This was Friday night when I sent it in. And I wasn't expecting to hear anything until early this week. I got a response from the individual that initiates the process from this point on, acknowledging receipt and saying that they were passing on the different elements to the parties that are involved. So I felt good about that. It really feels good to accomplish something, especially something that you've been working on for 5 years. and of course, I went there. I did go there. If I had. And finally I said, I looked at the series of events that had taken place, and I go, this is the time for this to move forward. And so I did so. In showing love and gratitude to ourselves, we can begin by showing love upon our awakening. Let the anxiety and worry in the moment be present and still find things to be grateful for. So it's not denying what is happening in our lives. It is being aware and acknowledging what is there, and being grateful, even being grateful for the opportunity to recognize that something may be amiss. And by practicing gentleness with ourselves, we find those things that are not going the way we would like for them to go to be okay by sending love. Just send it, give it a little love. Pam Grout in Thank and Grow Rich says, I would like to suggest that there is nothing more important than you could ever do for yourself than to tune into the frequency of gratitude and joy. There's nothing more beneficial for ourselves than tuning into the vibration and the frequency of gratitude and joy. The next practice we can engage in is to be who we are. Be who you are. Recognize that life happens. That's one of my favorite expressions. Life happens. And I don't mean that in a trite or dismissal way. Life does happen. Life goes on. And there are experiences that come to us that we go, I wasn't prepared for this one. I wasn't expecting this one. And yet, life goes on. We have been ourselves for a very long time. And remember that we have decades of other people's voices, opinions, and judgments in our heads. And some of us, myself included, have made those voices our voices. We talk to ourselves in worse ways than we would accept from anybody else. And I find myself now saying, stop that. Stop that. That is not the truth of who you are. This is not my truth. I'm not embracing this any longer. And when we recognize those places where we are being governed or being guided by those voices of dismissal, disapproval, whatever it is that may be negative in any way, remember, I deserve better. I deserve better. And so to live our lives fully from this point forward, we can choose to move beyond the trauma that is in our lives. We may have done despicable things. Now we practice compassion and forgiveness for ourselves. And it took me a while to learn that forgiveness was for me. It was not for the other person. The other person or the other incident happens to be a figure that is the focus of, I can look at it now as a mirror that is reflecting itself back to me and saying, okay, what was my role in this? Where did I release myself and give this experience or this other individual permission to move in and take control of my life? So forgiveness is for me. It's not about letting the other person off the hook because their life has continued to move on. And I'm the one that's still stuck in this self-pity party, if you will. And when I let go, recognizing that I deserve better, then I practice forgiveness and self-compassion. Dr. Barbara Waterhouse said, if you could have done something differently, you would have done something differently. And you didn't, so you couldn't. So, unravel that riddle. We do what we do at the level of our understanding. And when we know better, we do better. And the last one is turning compassion around. Compassion stems from awareness. We hear a lot about compassion for others. Jack Kornfield writes in Buddha's Little Instruction Book, if your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. If your passion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. And so our call to action today, starting today, build a culture of giant gentleness. Build a culture of giant gentleness. A culture where you're comfortable in your own skin and your minds are safe and loving. A culture where we are allowed to mess up without it being the end of the world. That's some of those voices that we have accepted of projections onto us. We make a mistake and it's the end of the world. And they hold us to that as being the end of the world and never let us forget it. Newsflash, it's not the end of the world. Our life goes on. So make it okay. Be okay with messing up and learn from that experience. Create a culture where you are yourself more often than not. And when we don't like something, say so. And when we do like something, say so. Today, in this world, we get to be ourselves. We get to be different and unique. We get to fail and succeed. We have good days and bad days. And we can say what we want and what does not work for us. This is creating a culture for ourselves, a culture where we move in that place of knowing the truth of who we are and creating a world that works for us, and including in that world that works for us, a world that works for everyone. Because when we're coming from that place of peace and compassion and self-love and self-discipline and gentleness, we are creating a world that works for everyone. And if this is too woo-woo for you, remember that life is full and rich. Our judgments and assertions often prevent us from experiencing even the smallest bit of goodness. So there's so much more in our lives than we allow. Up to this point, we have not allowed it. We're taking the brakes off. We're taking the limits off of ourselves and accepting the joy that life provides for us. We do this by being gentle with ourselves and begin to think better of ourselves. We begin to step in that place of knowing, I deserve this. Let's say that. I deserve this. I deserve this and so much more. And so let the ideas of possibility, generosity, and kindness be our focus today. Tell your truth as your witness. Know it and feel it. Know and live from an expanding awareness of this truth. And this truth is, I am whole, I am perfect, I am complete, and I am safe as an expression of the divine. There's a whole universe going on. Life is always working out. Be willing to let your perspectives change. This is our grand rising. This is our giant gentleness. Let us say together now our affirmation for this week. I let my gentleness reveal my giant self. I let my gentleness reveal my giant self. And now I invite us to, let's just take in a nice collective breath together, breathing in and releasing. Let's do that again. Let's take in a nice deep breath and release. And in the release, I invite us to bring our awareness to the all-prevailing presence of Spirit. Knowing that the only thing that is happening right here and right now is God, life, creative intelligence, divine creativity. Whatever it is that you may identify as a higher power, know that right here and right now, we are one with this energy, one with this life, one with this experience that is moving and living and having its beingness as each one an individualized expression of itself. And so I celebrate this moment in my life. I celebrate knowing that in the area of what I have done and what I have not done, that it's all okay. Because it all fades into God. It all fades back into the spiritual energy, the spiritual essence. And so as I shift my awareness from what may be weighing me down in this material expression, I know that this is just a phase of life and that I am continuing this journey back to the spiritual awareness and the spiritual greatness of who I am. And as this is true for me, I know that it's truth for all beings in all places and at all times. And so in gratitude and joy, I celebrate life. I celebrate being a gentle giant. I celebrate love. I celebrate peace. I celebrate harmony. I celebrate inclusion. I celebrate all that unites, knowing that the all-prevailing presence of Spirit is always that presence. And it is moving and living and having its very beingness in the affairs of our lives. And so as I surrender what I have doubts about and go within and recognize that there is something within me that is greater than what I have allowed or greater than what I have recognized up to this point. And I step into that greatness and recognize great things that are happening. I speak my word this morning for each one who is experiencing a transition in their lives. However that transition may be showing up, knowing that in the midst of what may appear to be sorrow and pain and sadness, that there is joy on the other side of that. There is hope on the other side of that. There is peace on the other side of that. There is love. There is reconciliation. There is right and perfect outcomes that is always on the other side of what appears to be not the truth of who we are. And so I know that everything is unfolding in divine, right, and perfect order right here, right now, without limits. I speak my word for places where individuals are gathering in the name and nature of the one life, the one love. Recognizing that we're all on this journey back to our spiritual awareness and spiritual truth of the true nature of who we are. And for this and so much more, I am eternally grateful. Releasing this word back into that law, which always says yes, I just allow it to be so. And if any of what I have said resonates with you in any way, please affirm it as we say together, and so it is. I invite us now to say together our statement of abundance as we prepare to share our expressions of love through our tithes and offerings. I recognize the presence of God within as a source of my abundance. Out of my abundance consciousness flows everything I could desire in life. With gratitude and thanksgiving, I now participate in the flow of uninterrupted abundance. This prosperous experience is evidence of my abundance consciousness. And so, in gratitude for the ways that you continue to support our spiritual community, you may send your donations by mail to our address, and it is on our screen, 400 West Franklin Street, Monterey, California, 93940. You may also text to give, and the number is 831-246-9694. And you may also donate online, montereycsl.org, and click on the donate button. And I thank our virtual community that is viewing our service this morning on demand. I thank you for your loving support of your presence and your financial abundance, as well as those who are participating here in the center and those who are viewing us on Zoom. And for those who are here in the center, we have a donation box on our hospitality table, and we invite you to leave your donations there. We have a couple of things that I would like to share with our virtual community, our Facebook and YouTube friends. On Sunday, April the 21st, that is the third Sunday, we have a guest speaker, Reverend Dr. Georgia Prescott, and she will be presenting a workshop. Following the service, it says, just say hell no to aging. Just say no. Say hell no to aging. And this will be an in-person workshop. We're invited to view Dr. Georgia online, and if you're in the area of Monterey, allow this to be your destination that Sunday and take advantage of the workshop. The suggested donation for the workshop is $30, and it will be taking place following our service. And I believe that is all that I wanted to alert our on-demand community. We just know that we love you, we appreciate you, we thank God for you, and we invite you to return next week as we continue the April series, Gentleness. And our topic is the other in love, the other in love. And so we say thank you, and we invite you to like, to comment, and to share as we continue to spread the love of the oneness of God that is all of us and each of us.